Hello, this is another video from the Angry Photographer. I've had an enormous number of people ask me to compare these two and ask which one is right for them. Obviously I need to be purely objective and go over a list of criteria, hopefully as fast as possible. We're talking about top recommendation of Nikon within the price bracket of $600 to $900 or $600 to $1,000. Both of these currently, the D7100 currently gray market is right at $700. You can find them used for $650, $670. I just saw a D700 FX over here. This is a 6-year-old camera. I saw a couple of them just the past 24 hours at right just a hair under $600, believe it or not. Most of them are selling for $750. It is still an extremely hot seller. What does one have that the other doesn't have, and what can I recommend over, one over the other? That depends on who you are, what you want to shoot. Obviously, budget isn't a concern, since both of these are essentially currently, at the making of this video, the same price camera. So let's say roughly $700 on both of them. Obviously, D7100, we have a DX, D700, we have an FX sensor. D700 used to be a $3,100 camera. D7100 used to be a $1,100 camera. Of course, it's been superseded, although not necessarily in the full spectrum of things, by the D7200, but that necessarily drops the price of the D7100 down considerably, which is great. I mean, I own several of these. I shot the piss out of the D7100 to one of the several that I have, and the same thing with the D700. I've seen more than a few D700s with over 200,000 shutter clicks, even though it is supposedly only rated for 150,000. Now, any camera can fail at any time, obviously and logically so. The D700 is a tank. Now, both of these have the exact same lenses on them. Both of them have vertical grips attached. Both of them obviously have 2 batteries in them, and currently the D700 with the exact same lens, and of course a slightly different battery, but the battery weighs the same, is 1 pound exactly heavier than the D7100 with a vertical grip. Some people don't like that. I prefer, and most pros prefer, heavy cameras. Adds in stabilization. Most of us grew up with that. We don't like necessarily much lighter weight cameras. The D7100 obviously does not do video, okay? But the D7100 is just like an old Rolls Royce or an old Mercedes that used to be, $60, $70, $80,000, and it's 7 or 8 years old, and it's got maybe 100,000 miles on it, and you're looking at it for $8,000 versus, say, a new Toyota Camry. Not that I'm making that as an exact analogy over here, since both of them are excellent cars. You have to consider what it is that you want or what it is that you're willing to live with. I heard from Chuck Gines that he's actually, he bought a D700 off my recommendation. I saw some pictures on his Facebook. He said he freaking loved it. In an email that he sent me, he said he was going to write a review. I don't know what his review is going to say, but anybody that's bought the D700, and of course I had to include qualifiers as to, is that what you want? Now, I have stated necessarily that if you're a newbie, either upgrading for like a D3000 or D5000 series, you may want to consider that as a second camera option and upgrade to the D7100 if your price bracket of purchase is within $500 to $1,000. The D7100 is unquestionably the best purchase, and now with the recent introduction of the D7200, the D7100 is dropped to a price that makes it an incredible value. Now this 6-year-old camera, here I go bumping the tripod, this 6-year-old camera over here to the right, the D700, obviously is still, it still sells hot as hell. It is an excellent value. You're saying, well, it's not a $3,100 camera anymore. Well, it is so far as what it is capable of. Now, its value is not $3,100 anymore, but what it is, as the tremendous beast that it is an FX camera, and it is a heavy beast at that. It's just a, pound it and go workhorse. It's just unmatched. It does actually have a larger latitude in ISO and also in shutter speed. You get continuous shooting up to 5 frames per second. And compared to the ISO sensitivity and the shutter on the D7100, the D700 has an ISO of 100 to 25,600 and a shutter of 30 seconds to 1/8,000th of a second. The D700, of course, is different. It does not have the same ISO sensitivity, which is 100 to 6400. The same shutter speed, 30 to 1/8,000th of a second. It's no big deal there. The D700 is an incredible low-light performer. Pros that actually have all the money in the world, they secretly love and opine the old D700 here. Now, old is relative. The megapixel wars are over. Now, as far as me printing out a 20 by 30 print between either one of these cameras, you're going to be happy with that. Now, if you need video capability, which I don't, and I'm not qualifying Chuck Gines as one of them, but he just wants a camera that's just a workhorse camera. I mean, he grew up with film, and so did I, but I've done more film than God, and I can't do it anymore. So, I mean, I love video, but I've got Canon camcorders and 3-chip Panasonics for doing a dedicated video. I certainly do video on Nikon, but not a lot. But if that's a feature that you need, then considering the D700 might not be for you. One big plus that others might consider a minus, but actually is a big plus, is that the D700 has only one compact flash card. The D7100 has 2 SD cards. You're thinking, well, where's the advantage in that? Well, on my 1-month shooting trip last month, I shot 320 gigabytes of raw data. And, you know, only a few days of that was working, and the rest was just my own shots. So, you know, a hair over 1/3 of a terabyte. And there is something to be said on a 12.1 megapixel compact flash card on the D700 that you can take an enormous amount of pictures. You're not sitting and wading through and storing enormous amounts of data. But you ask yourself, of course, what are the pictures? And, of course, you can Google images of the D700, and there are plenty of them. And this one came off a professional photographer. I don't know what she upgraded to, but I was looking at her website, and of course all the pictures were taken with the D700, and I of course told the story about that in another video. But you know, it literally is that old Rolls Royce, and it's not that old. I'm trying to think of a proper analogy to compare it to. I have the same lenses on both. I mean, I'm packing around as a beater lens on either one of them, a 20-40-85, which is perfectly suitable for FX or DX. It's an FX lens. What are the real advantages of the D700 over the 7100, since both are essentially $700 cameras? Reduced file storage. You have better ISO. You have better low light sensitivity. You have a better dynamic range on the D700. It does not have video capability. If someone is actually overwhelmed by like the user manuals on the D7100 and they just want a pure what are those horses that pull the beer? This Clydesdale, a pure Clydesdale camera, it would be the D700. It is not that difficult to learn. I would say its full capacity, as far as what it can do, is equal and slightly superior to that of the 7100, but it is much more simple to use. Much more simple to use. You do have a PC sync connection. You are obviously not going to have a warranty on it, but if you get like an inland marine insurance policy for loss, theft, drop, or whatever, you know, you can cover the camera. There's some places that you can purchase from, you can actually buy an extended warranty on it in case it fails, but unless you damage it or destroy it, anything can fail in consumer electronics. If you take either one of these cameras apart, they are just insanely complex on the inside. Insanely so. D700 is very heavy. Now, as far as what I can recommend to you, that depends on what sort of shooter you are. If you want an FX camera, cheap, obviously it's impossible for me to recommend the D600, which is far more expensive than the D700, used right now in the current market. I'd have to unquestionably recommend, if you're looking for an FX camera, but you don't want to spend an enormous amount of money like my D810s or the D750 that I have rolling in here in a couple days, which It's on sale currently for $1,900, but even if its gray market price is $1,600, well, $1,680 basically. But of course, Nikon will not work on the camera. You'd have to find a third-party person to work on it if you did buy a $1,600 gray market D750. It's actually hard to be totally helpful and objective other than giving you the full list of criteria, plus or minuses, of what each one has. If you want a pure raw workhorse that is fun, not saying the D7100 isn't, a pure raw tank of a workhorse, the D700 is just a powerhouse. And a lot of people are put off by the fact that it's a 12.1 megapixel camera, but I'll remind you that the Nikon D4 is only a 16 megapixel camera, and that sucker is $6,000. The only thing that $6,000 camera has over this D700, actually the D700 is made better than, I assure you, and I have used the D4, the D700 is made better than the D4. That the D4 has with the D700 obviously is a 16 megapixel, slightly better low light, and it has an enormous buffer array, but you know, you damn well better expect that for $6,000. Price not being a consideration, I can say that, you know, having owned and used all the current modern Nikon DSLRs, and even though I've got a D750 coming, nothing's going to change because I had a D750 for 2 weeks of use a month and a half ago, so it's not going to be any shocker to me what the D750 is. I would never part with the D700. And you're thinking, well, that's purely subjective on your part, or you have a love affair with it for your long use with it. But I mean, I have several D7100s, but both of these cameras at $700, for me to say that one is far superior to the other is a tough choice. The D700 is superior in some arenas, and the D7100 is superior in some areas. If you need video, you need a tight pixel density for like cropping animal shots. The high ISO performance is not as good on the D7100 as it is on the D700, unquestionably. The D700, every pro that actually owns this camera will tell you the same thing, is that it produces these crispy, contrasty, you know, magical images, which is partly due to its processor and obviously greatly due to its sensor, that there is an almost aura that surrounds, no matter the age that stays on this camera, that surrounds the Nikon D700. For $700, I can both say that the D700 is an absolute top value, and that owning same would be a privilege at $700. I mean, it's still at it's still a $3,000 camera. Its value is not that anymore, but when this thing was built, I mean, every bit of love and workmanship of $3,000 went into building it. And that has remained unchanged. As far as the technology, things really haven't progressed that drastically other than a lot of frou-frou features. And if you don't need video, then you should consider the D700 over the D7100. This does not change my consideration as far as the D7100 as a top pick, but you must make a logical, objective choice so that you don't make a purchase that you would regret later. So you have to weigh all these factors in your head as far as what shooter you are. Do you necessarily need video? What is it are you looking for? The Nikon D700 has a much less steep learning curve, but that doesn't mean it's any less adept as far as what it can do over the D700. Photography-wise only, completely forgetting about video, the D700 is 100%, it's actually over 100%, slightly, over what the D7100 can do. A lot of things that are on the D7100 photography-wise are a lot of frou-frou features that most people don't use. That's not to say I don't absolutely love the D7100, because I've recommended it endlessly. But all these factors need to weigh into your head when the purchase of same. Thank you for watching this video. If you like it, you can drop me a buck or two and ask me any questions, okay? Important part is making a wise, logical choice based upon all objective criteria.